My name is Sable Morvan. I'm 35, and for most of my life, I thought being a nurse and a decent mother was enough. I wasn't born into money, but my husband's family, old-spoken money wrapped in polished cruelty, made sure I never forgot I didn't belong. My father used to say I was too intense, too quick to speak, too stubborn to stay quiet. Maybe he was right. I was always the problem child, the one who questioned things, the one who didn't know when to shut up. And in this family, silence is survival. Still, I never imagined they'd go this far. Never imagined the day would come when I'd watch my 6-year-old son count coins at a mall food court while I pretended everything was fine. But nothing was fine. Not after what they took. Not after what they're still hiding. It started on a Tuesday. The mall was half empty, fluorescents buzzing overhead. Ezra stood on tiptoe at the counter of a snack kiosk, palm open, handing the cashier a crumpled dollar and 3 dimes. He wanted a juice box. I told him no. He said, "It's okay, I brought mine." From his pocket, 3 quarters, 2 nickels, a penny. I smiled like it didn't stab, like it wasn't humiliating. That's when I heard his voice behind me. "Sable." I turned. My father stood near the pillar, holding a Cinnabon bag, looking like someone just knocked the wind out of him. "Where's your car?" he asked, stepping forward. My husband and I paused. My voice snagged on the lie. "Jesse's using it. Work stuff. You walked here." His eyebrows rose. "With Ezra?" "No, I forced a smile. "Caught the bus. It's fine." It wasn't. Ezra tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, I'm hungry." I said, "No junk food, baby," I muttered, scooping up his coins and handing them back. My hands trembled. My father noticed. "Come on," he said. "I'll drive you home." "No," I said too fast. Too sharp. He blinked. Jesse's picking us up. In a bit. It was a dumb answer. Jesse wasn't. There'd be no pickup. The lie sat there, heavy between us. Dad looked at me, at Ezra, then at the sneakers I'd glued together last week. His eyes did that thing, narrowed slightly, not angry but calculating, the way he used to scan suspects in the courtroom. "You staying somewhere close?" he asked. I gave a tight nod. His gaze flicked to Ezra's backpack. The zipper was broken. I hadn't noticed until now. We stood there, 3 feet apart, closer than we'd been in months, and I could feel it, his mind running, gears clicking into place. "I'll walk you out," he offered. I panicked. "No, really. We're fine. I just need to grab one more thing." "You go ahead." He hesitated. "Sable." "Please." He backed off. "Okay," he said. "Call me later." "I will." He didn't believe me. He walked away. We waited 5 minutes. Then I took Ezra's hand and cut through the service hallway, out the employee exit. We walked 6 blocks, past shuttered motels, pawn shops, the liquor store I used to avoid. The rain had stopped, but the sidewalk was slick. Ezra's backpack dragged on the ground. I didn't have the energy to stop him. When we reached the loading dock behind the old furniture warehouse, I punched in the code on the keypad. The door buzzed. We slipped in fast. The room smelled like damp carpet and rust. Ezra looked up at me. "Is this still a secret, Mommy?" I nodded. "You said secrets are bad." "Sometimes," I said, "but not this one." Inside, the space heater was already sputtering. I locked the door, pulled down the blinds, made sure the curtain covered the hole in the wall. Ezra curled up in the blanket on the cot. I sat on the floor and stared at the steel door. The lock, the keypad. Then I took out my phone. No service. Again. I opened the camera app, flipped it to selfie mode. I stared at my own face. Eyes sunken. Cheekbones too sharp. A split lip I forgot was there. "There are no permanent lies," my father used to say. "Only borrowed truths." Something shifted in me then. I stood, crossed to the back corner, and pulled out the folder under the heater. Inside, receipts, letters, the printout from the bank, and a document Jesse swore was routine, that removed my name from our joint account. One day, he promised. One day I'd understand. I understood now. I didn't hear my father's footsteps the next day. Didn't know he'd followed us all the way to that rusted metal door. But I know what he saw. That door didn't lead to a home. It led to a secret. The heater clicked twice, then groaned. The buzz of old wiring filled the room. Ezra was still asleep, curled against the blankets on the cot. I stayed upright, back against a concrete wall, eyes on the door. It had been like this for 3 nights now. Restless sleep, half-packed bag under the bed, one hand always near the folder of documents I kept behind the heater. When people say rock bottom, they don't mean a single fall. It's layers, levels. A staircase down you don't notice until your voice echoes back at you. I found the bank receipt again. My name, scratched out. There were 3 documents Jesse had me sign in March. Just for refinancing, he'd said. It'll help lower the interest. I'd been working double shifts at the time. No sleep. He caught me when I was fogged over, vulnerable. Now, our house was no longer ours. The rain hadn't stopped since yesterday. Water streaked across the glass block window. It was barely dawn. I slipped on my hoodie, grabbed my phone, no signal, and stepped out the back. The alley was quiet. Too quiet. No crows. No trash trucks. Just the wind cutting sharp. I reached the corner of the old shipping warehouse across the lot and ducked into the shadow. From there, I could see the main road. The Walgreens. The exact stretch Dad had taken when he left yesterday. But he never called. Never texted. A text came instead, sometime after midnight. He's watching. You're not alone. No number. No name. Just the message. I deleted it. I told myself it was just spam. Coincidence. Nothing more. I was lying. People don't hide things unless there's something they're afraid you'll find. I made it to the bus stop and climbed onto the 620 downtown. Hood up. No eye contact. Hands in pockets. I still had my badge from the clinic, even if I hadn't worked there in 2 months. Jesse made sure of that. He'll protect the image, no matter who bleeds underneath it, my coworker Hadley once said. He's too polished to be cruel. That's what makes him dangerous. I hadn't believed her, until he took everything. When the bus passed our old street, I didn't turn my head. Maplewood Avenue, the blue shutters, the porch swing, the new SUV in the driveway. His SUV, bought with my signature. I stepped off 2 blocks later and headed to the legal aid building. Dad had worked here before retiring. He knew people, trusted people, or so I thought. Marla, the clerk, gave me a sideways look as I walked in. Looking for Wyatt? She asked. Yeah. He's out today. Unexpectedly. Did he say where? Nope. Just said cancel everything. Her tone was off. Casual on top, wary underneath. I nodded, pretended not to notice the way she avoided eye contact. I stepped out. Something gnawed at me. I crossed the street and circled back, entering through the rear stairwell. Up to the 2nd floor, past the frosted glass door with his name still painted on it, W. Morvan, case consultant. It was unlocked. Inside, quiet. Desk cleared. Shelves half empty. I went to the bottom drawer. Still locked. I knew the code. He'd used the same one for years. 0630, Ezra's birthday. Click. Inside, a small notebook. A flash drive. An envelope with my name in his handwriting. I opened it. Sable, you were right. I was wrong. If something happens to me, go to St. Thomas. You'll find what you need in the sanctuary. Don't trust anyone until you do. The letter trembled in my hand. A loud clunk outside. I froze. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. I shoved the letter into my hoodie, pocketed the flash drive, and ducked out the side door. Down the stairs. Out into the alley. I didn't look back. Back in the warehouse, Ezra was awake. Did you find Grandpa? He asked, rubbing his eyes. No, I said. But he left something behind. Like what? Something we're not supposed to find. He looked at me, confused. I crouched beside him, heart still pounding. Secrets, I whispered, always rot the longer you bury them. Ezra nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. I turned off the heater, sat in the dark with only the sound of his breathing and the rush in my ears. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You're getting close. Stop now. They're not just trying to ruin me. They're rewriting who I am. The flash drive burned in my jacket like it knew something I didn't. Ezra was coloring on the concrete floor, oblivious. His crayon scraped loud against the silence. I couldn't sit still. Not after that message. Not after the note from Dad. St. Thomas. I typed it into my phone. There were 5 churches named St. Thomas in Spokane County. I checked the addresses. Only one matched the zip code Dad used on legal documents. East of town. Out past the highway. Industrial zone. Mostly abandoned buildings. A few rehabbed into treatment centers. Sounded about right. I slipped the flash drive into the burner laptop I kept under the cot. It whirred to life, slow and coughing like it hated me. The files loaded. A name popped up first. Mercer Vaughn behavioral case notes. Click. Video thumbnails. Dates. One of them was Ezra's birthday. I clicked. The footage stuttered, then played. A white room. Sterile. Ezra, sitting on a tiny plastic chair, looking up at a woman in a lab coat. Your mom's sick, remember? The woman said gently. She's not safe right now. Ezra didn't speak. He just hugged a stuffed owl tighter. My stomach dropped. The next clip showed Jesse pacing in that same room, hands in pockets, voice lowered but furious. I said light observation, not conditioning. You people promised. Audio glitched, but I caught 2 words. Parental rights. I slammed the laptop shut. Breathe. Cut to black. I stood. Called Hadley. She didn't pick up. I texted. Emergency. Jesse lied about Ezra. Need help pulling mental health records. Legally. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. She was reading it. I looked at Ezra, then at the door. Put your shoes on, baby. Where are we going? To find Grandpa. Outside, the rain was sideways, needles against skin. Ezra kept close behind me. Hood up. We took the back route. Through the junkyard. Across the old railroad cut. My breath kept catching, like my body already knew something was coming. Dad's apartment was dark. Mailbox stuffed. Lights off. I used the spare key. Inside clean. Too clean. His phone sat charging on the counter. Unread messages. One from me. Another from a contact marked M. I opened it. She's getting too close. Pull him out. Contain her. No reply. I heard a noise behind me. Whipped around. Nothing. I backed into the hallway, phone in hand. My thumb hovered over 911, but I didn't call. There are moments when your bones tell the truth before your brain can. This was one of them. I grabbed Ezra and left. We walked 4 blocks before I spoke. He's gone, I said. Ezra squeezed my hand. Is he hiding? Maybe. Back at the warehouse, a car was parked across the street. Black. Tinted windows. No movement. I pulled Ezra inside fast. Bolted the door. Turned off every light. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message this time. Just a photo. Me. Walking out of Dad's apartment. Holding Ezra's hand. I dropped the phone. You okay, Mommy? I nodded. Leet. I crouched. Listen. If anything ever happens, you find Hadley. Remember her. He nodded. She'll keep you safe. Why do you look scared? Because I am. Because this isn't about Jesse anymore. Someone else is in this. The laptop pinged. A new file had opened. Auto-triggered from the flash drive. It was a scanned court petition. Filed 2 days ago. Jesse. Motion for emergency custody. Claiming I was mentally unstable, homeless, unfit. Attached, a psychiatrist's statement. Signed by someone named Dr. Vaughn. Same name from the video files. But the kicker? The signature date was 3 weeks ago. Before I even left the house. They were building this before I even knew it started. My hand shook. Mommy. I turned. Ezra was holding my phone. Another message had arrived. You're not supposed to have that footage. Delete it. Or lose him. The only person who can help me just vanished. St. Thomas sat at the edge of town like a forgotten thought. Boarded windows. Peeling paint. A crooked cross hanging by one bolt, creaking in the wind. The parking lot was empty except for a single security light, flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay alive. I parked 2 blocks away. Left Ezra with Hadley. She didn't ask questions. Just knelt, held his face and said, I've got you. Then she looked at me and added, quieter, whatever you're about to do it fast. People say faith is about trust. I've learned it's really about doubt. The moment you step inside and wonder whether anyone's listening. The side door was unlocked. That was the first wrong thing. Inside, the air smelled like bleach and dust. Old hymns ghosted the walls, not sung, recorded. A loop. Soft enough to calm you. Soft enough to make you forget time. I moved fast. Short steps. No echo. Rows of pews led to the altar, but behind it, new drywall. Poorly done. A scene you'd miss unless you were looking for lies. I pressed my ear to it. A hum. Electrical. Modern. I slipped around back. Found a keypad half hidden behind a saint statue. The brand was medical grade. I knew it from the clinic. 4 digits. I tried Ezra's birthday. Denied. I tried mine. Denied. I tried the date Jesse proposed. The day everything started to rot. The door clicked. Inside was not a sanctuary. It was a corridor. Wait. Wait. Soundproof panels. Cameras recessed into corners like black eyes. Eyes everywhere. My breath shortened. People don't build places like this unless they're trying to erase something. Or someone. A door at the end stood open. Light spilled out. I stepped in. The room was small. No windows. A table. A chair bolted to the floor. On the wall, a mirror. Not glass. Observation. I knew because I'd signed off on enough psych holds to recognize the difference. On the table lay a folder. Morven, Ezra. I froze. Hands shaking, I opened it. Charts. Behavioral notes. Language acquisition. Emotional responses marked in red. And then the line that made my knees buckle. Subject exhibits, stress response when maternal figure mentioned. Conditioning ongoing. No, I whispered. A voice behind me answered. It's not conditioning. It's correction. I spun. Dr. Mercer Vaughn stood in the doorway, calm, immaculate, holding a tablet like a priest holding scripture. You shouldn't be here, Sable, he said gently. This place isn't safe for you. You took my son. He smiled then. Your son was referred by his legal guardian. Jesse. Of course it was Jesse. Do you know what the problem with truth is? Vaughn continued. It's loud. It makes people emotional. We specialize in quiet solutions. I lunged. He stepped back. Alarms shrieked. Red lights flooded the hall. Cut. Running. Door slamming. My foot slipped on the polished floor. I caught myself on the wall, skin tearing, blood slick and warm. I heard footsteps. 2 sets. 3. A distraction. I ducked into the chapel, vaulted over a pew, knocked over a stand of candles. Flames flared. Smoke bloomed. Slow motion. Firelight reflected in the observation mirror. Then movement behind it. A child-sized chair. A stuffed owl. Ezra's owl. My heart broke open. I ran. A hand grabbed my jacket. I twisted. slammed my elbow back, felt bone give. Someone shouted. I didn't stop. The stained glass window at the end of the hall was cracked. Old. Weak. I hit it shoulder first. Glass exploded. Cold air. Gravity. Impact. Mud filled my mouth. My shoulder screamed. But I rolled, crawled, disappeared into the trees. Behind me, voices. Radios. Dogs barking. I didn't stop until my lungs burned raw. In the woods, shaking, I checked my phone. One new file had synced from the tablet I'd brushed past. A video. Ezra again, sitting in the white room. Vaughn's voice, calm asleep. Your mother doesn't love you the right way, he said. That's why she's dangerous. Ezra shook his head. Vaughn leaned closer. We can help you forget her. I bit my knuckle to keep from screaming. A line floated up from somewhere deep, something my father used to say when cases went bad. They don't need to destroy you. They just need to convince the world you don't exist. Rain started again. I staggered toward the road, every instinct screaming the same thing. They're not saving Ezra. They're programming him. I found the key in the glove box. Dad always hid things in the strangest places. Ezra sat in the passenger seat, quiet. He hadn't asked about St. Thomas again. Not yet. He trusted me the way only a 6-year-old can trust a parent, without skepticism, without fear. But I didn't trust myself. The warehouse heater rattled. Rain tapped the metal roof like an impatient judge. We drove past the old neighborhood. Maplewood Avenue. The house was gone, brown grass. For sale signs staked into dirt. A stranger's blue SUV idled in the driveway. That was Jesse's. I sped up anyway. The warehouse door hissed open when we returned. Inside, the air tasted like old coffee and regret. I pulled the key from my pocket. Dad's stash. The drawer popped. Inside, a notebook, a stack of photographs, a USB drive marked Morven files. I swallowed. Ezra watched. Mommy, is Grandpa coming back? I didn't answer. I opened the notebook. Pages of scribbles. Dates. Names. One name stood out. Vaughn. And then this. Refer to 027, confidentiality override. Underneath, a date. 2 days before I disappeared. I pulled out the USB and plugged it into the laptop. Files appeared. A litany of PDF after PDF. The first was simple, a court affidavit. Signed. Filed. By Wyatt Morven. I stared until my eyes burned. He didn't just leave. He'd been covering something bigger. Something tangled. Next file. Photos from a home security camera. Jesse's house. 3 months ago. The timestamp showed a meeting in the driveway. Dad talking to a man in a dark coat. Only the gait was familiar. Slow. Careful. Predatory. Then the file name flashed. Contract. Mercenary consulting. My breath hitched. A contract. Signed by Dad. And a company I'd never heard of. I scrolled. There were emails next. The first one, from Dad to the company. We need to contain this internally. She must not go public. That line hit like a bullet across the room. I backed up. Ezra watched me with worried eyes. Mommy. I blinked. I had to breathe. Dad wasn't just gone. He'd helped design something far worse than I ever imagined. I shut the laptop, every muscle trembling. That's when the warehouse lights flickered. One blink, then off. Black. Complete. We were in the dark. The heater sputtered once, then died. Ezra's face glowed in the phone's faint light. I hugged him close. My phone buzzed. I knew that vibration. Unknown number. I almost deleted it. I didn't. The message read, "You should have stayed quiet." Then another. "He's counting on your silence." I felt my blood run cold. Dad had warned me of silence once. He said, "A buried truth doesn't stay buried forever. Pressure builds. Then it explodes." I didn't understand then. I understood now. I needed proof beyond Dad's files. I needed legal records. I needed someone who knew the law better than Dad ever did. Hadley. I dialed her number. The line rang. Once. Twice. Then a voice I thought I'd never hear in desperation. Sable? Where have you been? I explained fast. Short sentences. Little pauses. I didn't spare the terror. She said, "Stay where you are. I'm coming." I hung up. Then I heard a noise. Outside. Gravel shifting. Slow. Deliberate. Heavy footsteps. I glanced at Ezra. He knew. I knew. We weren't alone. I grabbed my coat. Reached for Ezra's hand. The warehouse door creaked. Open. A silhouette. Tall. Wide shoulders. I couldn't see his face. But the moment he stepped into the bare bulb light, I froze. Because it wasn't just one person. There were two. They didn't speak. Just stared. In unison. At us. Then the taller one spoke, his voice low. "All this, Morven. You should have stopped digging." The shorter one stepped forward, coat swaying. His eyes cold. Especially after what your father started. They weren't here for questions. They were here for us. And whatever Dad buried wasn't just paperwork. It was a trail. A trail they'd follow to the end. I pulled Ezra behind me. My heart was a drumbeat in my ears. And for the first time, I felt truly hunted. Everything broke at once. The men moved first. I grabbed Ezra and ran. The warehouse lights snapped back on, white blinding. One of them lunged. I kicked the heater. It toppled, sparks flying. Smoke. Confusion. A distraction. Cut. We burst through the side door into rain. Hadley's car skidded into view, horn screaming. She flung the passenger door open. "Get in." We did. Metal. Cracked behind us. One of them firing at the lock, not at us. Professionals don't miss. They warn. Hadley floored it. Sirens rose in the distance. Someone had called it in. Maybe a neighbor, maybe fate. The city blurred. Red lights smeared across wet asphalt. Cut. At the hospital intake, the world slowed to paperwork and fluorescent hums. Mandatory reports. Child welfare forms. A nurse asked Ezra his name, and he answered too carefully like he'd been coached. That's when I knew we couldn't wait. We went public. Cut. The press conference was chaos. Microphones. Cameras. Questions shouted over each other. Hadley stood beside me. I held the flash, drive up, like a talisman. "People think silence keeps them safe," I said. "It doesn't. It only feeds the dark." The files hit the servers within minutes. Vaughn's name. The contracts. The conditioning protocols. The forged affidavits. The money trail. Consulting fees routed through shell companies, then laundered back as treatment grants. It was all there. Clean enough to be ugly. Ugly enough to be true. Cut. Jesse arrived late, pale, shaking. He tried to grab my arm. Security stepped in. "This went too far," he said, voice cracking. "I didn't know." "Knowing isn't the same as choosing," I said. "You chose." He didn't argue. Cut. The arrest came at dusk. Vaughn didn't resist. He smiled for the cameras, that thin, surgical smile. "We helped families," he said. "We corrected harm." A detective leaned in. "You don't correct harm by erasing mothers." The cuffs clicked. Cut. My father's name surfaced in the filings like a ghost, refusing to rest. The emails. The contract. The containment language. The fear that had driven him to bargain with monsters. He turned himself in the next morning. We met once. Across a table. Glass between us. "I thought I could control it," he said. "I thought if I kept it quiet." "Quiet isn't peace," I said. "It's just noise you can't hear yet." He nodded. Older than I remembered. Smaller. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know," I said. "And I meant it. Even if forgiveness would take time." Some truths don't absolve, they explain. Cut. The hearing took 3 hours. The judge read the record, the videos, the timestamps, the expert testimony that shredded the fake diagnosis and exposed the coercion. Emergency custody was granted on the spot. Protective orders followed like dominoes. When the gavel fell, it sounded like a door closing. Cut. Home was a borrowed apartment with clean windows and a view of the river. Temporary. Safe. Ezra slept through the night for the first time in weeks. In the morning, he sat at the table drawing. He used the blue crayon, then the green, then the red. Mom, he asked. Yes. Are we still hiding? I knelt so we were eye to eye. No, we're done hiding. He considered that. Okay. Children accept truth faster than adults. They haven't learned all the ways to doubt it yet. Later, when the city quieted, I stood by the window. The river moved on, unbothered by names or scandals. It reminded me of something Hadley said once, after a hard shift. You don't outrun the truth. You outlast it. I believed that now. People will argue about ethics, about therapy, about the line between help and harm. But the line is simple when you draw it with a child's life. No one gets to rewrite who you are without your consent. No one gets to take a mother and call it medicine. That night, Ezra climbed into bed beside me. He pressed his forehead to mine. Are you my mom? He asked, small and careful. Yes, baby, I said. And I'm not going anywhere this time. He smiled, fell asleep. Outside, the city lights blinked. Somewhere, a siren faded into nothing. The watchers were gone. And for the first time since the mall, since the coins on the counter and the lie on my tongue, I let myself breathe. We were still standing. That was enough.